Hi, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life. We meet each week to discuss and get to different types of explorations on the intersection of psychology and spirituality. And for me, especially, to find nuggets of precious and timeless wisdom that will help you and I live better lives with meaning and purpose. My name is Marcia Trajano, and with me is the program founder, Jussara Korngold. Jussara, so good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Marcia. It's always a moment of joy when we are here to to start our podcast and to discuss so important topics with everyone that is reaching out and listening to us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jussara. So, Jussara, for the past several weeks, several episodes, we've been talking about family, right? From different angles, education in the family, conflicts in the family, those missions of the parents for that family member, so on and so forth. And today, I would like for us to talk about the maybe overarching view of the family and discuss today's family, right? If I say that because if we think about it, the family that I myself have today is very different, for example, than my parents, which is very different than my grandparents, and so on and so forth. So there is a generational um, a propensity for a very different, not so homogenic type of family, but there's also much more that is out there. And I'd love to ask you, maybe we can talk a little bit about what's happening in today's family. Can we talk about, and the question may be, is structure, we could say even authority, or more values, do you believe, Josada, based on the works of Joanna de Angelis, is that being diluted, dissolving, or is it changing to yet a different type of family?
Uh, uh, for starters, I'm not an engineer, but what is coming to my mind is everything is related to engineering. Uh,
Hmm.
First of all, thinking about the family as the
Hmm.
stone of any structure and our society. But as you were talking about your experience in family and how each one of these generations we have been living different experiences, I was thinking about the construction of a building where you have different materials, right? So you will have the steel that is necessary. You have the foam that goes in between the wall. You have the bricks. You have the cement. You have
Uh-huh.
and I mean each one of them is their own individual, but
Hmm.
in order to build that uh, building, uh, we need each one of them.
Yeah.
So regardless if we are now living a kind of life that is, we think that it's too different from our parents and grandparents, it is part of the construction of our society. And we, unfortunately, of course, have the family values have been through a crisis lately,
Hmm.
or for a few decades already. When we have relaxed too much the role of parents and the understanding what it is to be a parent, what it is to be a child, and sometimes we do not pay attention to that and the dynamics of a family.
Hmm.
And how much, even when you think I'm not going to be like my parents, and all of a sudden you are repeating so many behaviors.
Yes.
Sometimes you just don't repeat because you don't have a chance. Like, for instance, the other day my son was talking to me. We are very close. We were always very close. and he was talking to me, uh, how much he's realizing
Yeah.
that he lives a reality that most of his friends do not have,
Mm.
because they do not have a family present in their day-to-day lives. And to them, it's very hard to understand the relationship that he has with us.
Yeah.
To him, it is very difficult to understand the lack of relationship that his
Yeah.
friends have with their parents, because they are mostly absent.
Mhm.
I remember that the first shock that I had in this sense was when my husband and I, we 32 years ago, we moved to London, and we made some friends, and one of them was saying that he was doing a doctorate or something, and he was going to have his period of vacation, but he couldn't go to his parents' home because they have rented his room. So
Mhm.
he had to go to a different place and rent something for himself. I mean, to me, that sounded so strange, because it's
Yeah.
in our culture. So of course, if I'm going to rent my a room, I will say, listen, I know when my son, my daughter, we're going to have we'll be on vacation, so I can rent that for 9 months. I cannot rent for a year, or I would put my children sleeping with me in the bathroom, or even
Yeah.
in the living room. And there were so many that came in and had this kind of a conversation of how far they were from the families, and then I started looking at the other side, and
Mhm.
seeing how many of the older people, elderly person, were alone.
Mhm.
And then I said, well, I mean, the equation here is clear. You
Yeah.
were there for me when I needed in my teens, in my 20s, or whatever. You just, it's time for you to face the world. And now, they don't have a rapport, they don't have a relationship.
Yeah.
And so, and all of that is based on the values that we have for family. And today it's being really compromised.
Yeah. Yeah. I can have to tell you a personal note as well. Um, oh my goodness. 30 years ago, I believe, at the time, in a different relationship, my first husband, um, and my in-laws came to visit. And they came to visit for a couple of weeks, Jussara, and it was very interesting. There was such amazing, amazing healing, especially to my ex-husband, that we proposed, "Do you want to stay longer?" And they end up staying a whole year with us. And it was really a year of healing those relationships that were severed or compromised before we moved to the US. And it was just very interesting because what transpired afterwards, when I was talking to somebody else, maybe at work, and I said, "Oh yeah, my in-laws are with us for the year," and people are like, "Are you crazy? Why would you do that?" So it's a perspective, a different construct. For me, it was pure joy, but looking from outside, looking in, they're like, "We don't do that."
Yeah.
Right? So values that are perhaps accepted within one culture versus the other, but then over, if you think in terms of the overarching theme of today's family, we can absolutely understand that you mentioned that it's been diluted, right? It's been compromised. If you that I love your example of a building in each different part of the world, a different age. The materials may change, but we're still building a house, right? So let us build our house, quote unquote house, which is this family. And
The thing, Marcia, that it's important for us to think is that
yeah,
our offsprings, They
Yes.
learn from our examples,
Yeah.
not from our words.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and the dynamics that are, established in a home, whether you realize that or not, consciously or unconsciously, it has a tendency of keeping repeating.
Yes.
For instance, I have a friend that her mother had her when she was 18 years old. And she had her first daughter when she was 18 years old. And her first daughter had her first child when she was 18 years old. So we are talking about three generations that,
Yeah.
will not consider that abnormal. Okay,
Correct.
because and you see how things repeated, and I mean, and so many other things. I've been working for a nonprofit organization for 25 years, and I through that I had the opportunity of attending some incredible meetings and forums, and I remember I was in this forum, and that was promoted by the Ashoka organization. And one of um, the organizations came to, there were like 5 or 6 that were going to present their work.
Uh-huh.
And then one of them came, and she was a psychologist, and she started talking about the work that she was doing in the I don't remember quite well the country. I don't remember if it was Ecuador, but it's something in that area.
Mm-hmm.
That was the following: the main goal, the mission of that organization was to teach mothers to be mothers and children to be children,
Mm.
because they didn't know what this role entailed. Why?
Yeah.
Because their community, um, the dynamics were the following: the children go out to
Mm-hmm.
ask for money, to ask for help, and the mothers stay in their place, waiting for the money to do and to take care of, cooking or whatever
Yes.
they do. So they never lived childhood, going to school or playing with friends, having free time. And the mothers never understood the role that it was their responsibility to provide for the children, and not the children be providing for them. But the thing is, the way they were raised, that was
Yeah.
the culture, that was the dynamics. And I remember that I was so surprised with, I could never imagine that. But then when she was explaining, it made completely sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's like, now that I am an adult, I'm retired. I already went to the streets, for 10, 15 years, because I'm a child, and people will be more susceptible to help me,
Yeah.
something like this. And so, this is when we are talking about family and how we imprint, and we pass on our values to the next generation.
Yeah.
It's very important. And what is happening today is that um, we we live excesses, like we lived at excesses in the past. Like, my children are my property,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you have to do exactly what I want you to do, and it's there is no questioning, there is nothing. And now with modern psychology, we understand that, and even with spiritism, especially with spiritism, that child may be a much grown
Yeah.
spirit than I
Yeah.
am. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
addressing a spirit that, although is not entirely conscious of, its whole history or characteristics, etc. But it is there. And so what happened? It came to a point that we say, oh, if I do that, my child is going to resent.
Mm.
So I better allow them to do whatever they want to do, because this is the new way of education. It is not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, picking on that, right? Because with so many just had a cultural shifts, technological shifts, and social changes, and we're talking about globally.
Mhm,
Um, as you're mentioning, it is you talked about Latin America, right?
yeah.
Central America, but if we can just open that thought process everywhere in the world, there's different aspects of the same story where those roles need to be re-taught, if you will. And I'm thinking those social changes are pushing us to rethink how to be prepared ourselves, how to re-educate ourselves, and to be able to provide a very healthier living within the family, right?
But when,
So, yeah, go ahead.
but when we talk about healthier,
Yeah.
what do you mean about healthier? Healthier means, okay, now you're going to become a vegetarian or vegan, uh, or, and of course you are going to exercise, choose a sport, or do something like that, because, your body needs more structure, and you also need to be successful in your
Yeah.
profession. So this is what we are looking for, and this is what we imagine. If I have a good job, I have money, I can enjoy my life, I can live a comfortable life, I can have vacations, I
Yeah.
look good, I eat well. But we are not necessarily thinking about the emotional side. And this is what we were talking about before, in terms of, we are
Mhm.
not there by chance. We're not invited to become parents or to have a family by chance.
Correct. Yeah.
And in this case, I mean, I even say, if it's just you and a partner, you're a family. Okay, there is a dynamic there. There is in the relationship of two spirits that are together, and they have a purpose. So
Yeah.
regardless if you have children or not, or
Uh-huh.
grandchildren, I mean, you within your home, you are a
Yeah.
community. You
Yeah.
are a circle that it's responsible to radiate to the rest of the world. And so when
Yeah.
you have peace at home, and when you have a, a nice relationship, you go into the world with that energy that has been sustaining you from what you have in your
Yeah.
cosmic
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love what you're saying, right? And what I keep thinking, if we keep, just evolving that train of thought, is healthy life and our expectations, and redefine even, right? To really look for sound definitions of what it is to be healthier. Outside looking in, or inside looking out. What is it that I need to be in that peace and very strong relationships with each other is really the foundation for that. But back to the topic of today's family type, I keep thinking that just like we need to redefine what healthy living is, I think we should probably redefine the goals of a family. And one of the topics that comes to my mind is when we confuse the idea of inspiring our children, giving them the freedom to choose, right? Giving the opportunity to be psychologically, spiritually mature with that negligence that maybe you referenced earlier when you talked about your son, that like they don't they don't behave like me, right? So I was wondering, let's say, and I'm just gonna, no judgment here, everyone. I'm just giving some couple of examples that came to my mind. But let's say, um, if a young child, and we're talking about maybe, in right between, um, just before becoming adolescent, like 10, 11, 12, and that person really spends excessive amounts of hours in front of a computer, either playing games or immersed in with social media, having no limits whatsoever. And what are the habits? What are the behaviors that that young person will lead to the rest of their lives? And what about their emotional education, intellectual education, right? EQ, IQ. I love. I'm reading a book on spiritual intelligence, right? What also your SQ, and from that perspective, as a parent, that you're giving it all as a means of, I'm loving you with all that I have. I'm giving all of it, but those excesses are there, as you mentioned. Therefore, that child that has been entrusted to you to raise has really those sense of boundaries, of limits, of self-control, right? And I was just wondering, how can we do better
Mhm.
from the ability to provide the love, but also in freedom, but not necessarily licensed to do anything, unbridled behaviors, because there's no sense of boundaries set forth. Um,
Well, I think that the short answer would be stop
mm,
delegating.
yes, yeah,
We are delegating the formation of our children to, you know, to video games, because
yeah,
all their friends play video games, and while they are playing video games, I can be here,
mm,
looking at Instagram, and and they are not troubling me or coming
yeah,
after me, so it's like a technological babysitter. So
yeah,
I turn the TV on. I give the cell phone,
yeah,
the technological, and I mean this has become so natural in our society that we are not thinking that it's not technology that is bad. Is
hmm,
how we lack control or we delegate purposes to things that cannot form my character. Like we were talking before about if I am at the Instagram and looking at the influencers, and then all of a sudden I think life has to be that way, and for
uh-huh,
a child, for a teenager especially, they sometimes they cannot really define what is reality and what is illusion. But I was thinking, about going to school.
mm,
What would we say if the teachers at the school is started stopping teaching them what they had to teach, because I have to please them. They
mm,
are asking for more breaks, more time for them to socialize with each other, more time for them to eat. Now I want an ice cream or something like. And actually, because they are demanding that, and even perhaps to look at their phones to play their games, they will not have time to give them the proper education, right? What the formal education, as we know, they should be receiving at school, and sometimes we are doing that at home without realizing. No, but my son, he wants so much to watch that TV program, or
Yeah.
or he tires very
Yeah.
easily, or this or
Yeah.
that. And the natural things that sometimes is this process of education that we have to keep on repeating ourselves. Please don't forget to brush your teeth, or do the things, or take
I remember those days. Yes.
or the little chores they have at home. We have to keep on repeating, so we have to keep on repeating the good
Yes.
things and give the
Yes.
good values and show
Yeah.
that we are present. But sometimes, like you were saying today, in terms of technology, I see that actually, and I think everyone sees that. Sometimes we go to a restaurant, there is a family or mother and children or whatever, and they are all uh, on their phones, and not paying attention to who is next to you. So and one of the things that can be compromised with
Hmm.
this, engaging in social media so much, is the lack of proper relationship and exchange of energy and putting your
Yes.
heart into it.
Yeah.
So you have automatic responses like, "How are you doing?" "Oh, of course I'm fine."
I'm good. Yeah.
I am so," and whatever, you know. So
Yeah.
and now, even in a new language that is only, letters, right? That we have to catch up on this new language that is being developed, right, among our teenagers especially. And
Yeah.
so it is hard. I mean, educating oneself, it is hard enough.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
responsible for being a pillar in your
Yeah.
home when you
Yes.
decide to become a parent,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of work as well.
Absolutely. And I know we're not here to judge anybody, right? But it's very important, this moment of reflection of the role, our role as parents, our role as children in, of our parents, and of course, in today's family, it's very easy to find those families where the parents' role have been one of I'm your provider, right?
Mhm.
Instead of I am your guide. And you mentioned quite well, there is a notion of imprinting and providing also not only those generational um, patterns of behavior with an imprint, but also providing the moral compass for the child. This is our values, as I know, the best that I know. So, from that perspective, we all should reflect on how we should shift from, if we are there, right, from being providers to become guides, right, life guides, if you will, to foster the complex idea that we are raising. And you mentioned this already, Josiah. I'm just putting my thoughts together, but we are raising immortal spirits, right? And the importance of that relationship is one that should create a room for freedom, but should also create a room for duties, and right where the child in this case learns the responsibilities and understand that with every um, aspect of modern life, and we're talking about technology in this case, we have a great access to things that can help us grow. But if we fail to teach those limits, or even digital safety, or even beyond that, what is can be considered a healthy social interaction, so that you as a parent, you guide your child through this new world that we live in with technology. And I go back to 2000, right? When we say social media, it's really the burst that came with Instagram right at 2000. So 25 years, more or less, that we have this new frame of interaction that is awesome,
Yeah.
or is it? But one of the, yeah, go ahead. I was going
Yeah.
to ask you something else, but go ahead, Jussara.
While you were talking, one thing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came to my mind is that sometimes we take this role that of only being a provider, and I'm doing my duty. I'm
yeah,
providing you a good education and vacations and this and that and food and
yeah,
shelter and okay, that is my commitment.
yeah,
Not thinking so much about really putting yourself in trying to understand that this is an immortal spirit, but if this spirit is reincarnating, it's because it needs guidance.
yes,
And you were the one that have being selected to become
yes,
the guide of that spirit. But sometimes we go to the opposite, because we all have from many reincarnations, but we don't even need to go there. We can just be here in the present one, because I know that some people will feel more comfortable if we are just talking about one life, this life. But we
yeah,
have enough frustrations in our lives, right? Things that we would like to be and we could not be. Like for instance, myself, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a
uh-huh,
doctor, and I'm an economist. Okay, so and a ballet dancer, and so many things that I didn't accomplish, and I'm not complaining about my life. But what happens is when you have a child, sometimes you project your unhealed wounds, your frustrations so
yes,
much, because oh, I didn't have the resources to go to school, to go to college, and now my children have to go to college, and to the best college, and not paying attention to the abilities, to the talents and tendencies that the child has.
yeah,
And so what happens? We repress, we do not respect the inclinations of that child in so many different aspects, right? So
yeah,
there is that as well. And none of those things, wanting to impose, because in my family, everyone is a lawyer. So you have to become a lawyer,
yeah,
and
yeah,
or you have to become a doctor, or then whatever. In my family, everyone had the ability to paint, so you have to paint as well. And I mean, I don't know, I have two left hands, I cannot hold a brush. I don't know what to do with that unless mess up with myself. So
uh-huh,
things have been really what we have been living now in our society, this imposing that you have to be a generation of self-achieved per people.
yeah, yeah,
And there, I mean, it's no wonder that the number of suicides among teenagers
yeah,
having increased so much, and young people have increased so much. The pressure that they feel, and we see that especially when they go to college, and they cannot cope with the emotional situation, the pressure, the lack of ability, perhaps, or of following the subject that they having. And so this has been really important for us to focus and to think
yeah,
about,
yeah,
and
yeah,
understanding that uh, that it requires work. Again, I'm going to mention my example. Uh,
uh-huh,
Brazilian, And
Yeah.
my son was born here, and of course all his education was here in the US. And but of course, since the beginning, I was, teaching him to speak Portuguese. And for some years during his childhood was okay, but then when he started, when he became, was about 8 years old, from 8 to 12 to 13, those were really difficult years, because when he was, learning more, having more, uh, uh, interaction with English and school and friends and all of that, that it became very hard for him to speak Portuguese, or even to have the vocabulary to really
Mhm.
truly manage to express himself. And but he liked it since the beginning. He liked it, the idea of being able of speaking this language, of communicating with cousins and
Yeah.
grandparents and all that. But it was really hard. So during at least 5 years, our conversation would be half in English, half in Portuguese. I would say, I mean, myself, all the time I would be speaking Portuguese, and he would be mixing up. So I would say
Yeah.
to him, listen, you say the whole phrase that you want to say in Portuguese, and if there is one word that you do not know, you say it in English, and I will teach you what is that word in Portuguese. So it was 5 years like that, and me telling him when he would be speaking English with me, I don't understand you. Say everything in Portuguese. Now he speaks Portuguese without an accent very well.
Oh,
But I mean, it was
beautiful.
for this
Yeah.
5 years, it was a lot of work and commitment, and being the one that, oh my God, I don't even want to talk to you because it's too much work.
Yeah.
And it was hard. So, okay, we are talking here more about committing to the emotional structure of
Yeah.
these beings that come to us. But I mean, I'm just giving this example because it's the same thing. When you see that your child has a tendency, sometimes we see from early age, that king or queen that have reincarnated and love to have subject, and you do that, and you do that, and
I love it. Yeah.
oh, look how cute my child here is, And I said, no, no, this is not cuteness. This is something that you have to address very carefully, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I love it. The king reincarnated as your son, and like, oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not going to do that. But I love it. Let's maybe because you already mentioned this, talk a little bit about what is the essence of the family. It doesn't matter if you're born 2,000 years ago, today, or 2,000 years from now, which is really all about learning, teaching, and providing an environment of love, respect, right? And I was just wondering, what is it that we need to, even if we're not doing, maybe consider starting to do now that we know?
I think the first thing is for us to understand
Mm,
what is the reason for family, right? And Joanna
good point.
in the
Yeah.
book Family Constellation,
Mm-hmm.
she says that, more or less like the way I remember, that family is the laboratory
Yes.
where, spirits are going together in order to improve themselves, to acquire virtues, to rid themselves of imperfections, and to learn to this sometimes very conflicted area,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
learn to deal with one another, to develop compassion, tolerance, forgiveness. Because, when a family member does something to you that hurts you, because it is a family member, you are much more inclined to
Yes.
exercise forgiveness. And so
Mm.
the way she puts that to us, and the way we understand in the Spiritism, is that the first reason for family is for us to learn how to live in community, and how to respect one another, how to love one another. Sometimes we see people that are very generous, compassionate, charitable, and they do so many
Yeah.
things and work for the society, for the whole world in a way, and they overlook what is necessary in their home. So our first obligation, as much as possible, because I know that there are some situations that we will not achieve the results that we wanted immediately or just in one incarnation, but it's a working construction.
Yes.
We are building that, so that each time can become better. The way to polish a stone is to bring another stone and to rub it, and two pointy stones all of a sudden
Yeah.
are going to become round stones. So this is what
Yeah.
we are. This is the purpose, that we have a family, to learn to exercise love and
Mm.
eternal love. So if we want to love humanity and respect each other, and to live in a world where we dream about,
Yes.
everything
Yeah.
starts in the home. Everything
Yeah.
starts with the closest relationship that you have. So this is the purpose. And when we neglect that, when we send to the world, children that, well, my parents were never present, or uh,
Mm.
I mean, I didn't have really people that would be interested in my emotional side, or like insensitivity, like your daughter first boyfriend, all of a sudden the boyfriend breaks up with the daughter, and you just uh, go and say, wow, this is only the first one. You always experience this so many more times, which we know it is true, or it can be true, but this is not being sensitive to the needs and to the spiritual maturity of that being that is there. And this is what we have to address. And at the
Mhm.
same time that we are educating them, we are educating ourselves, because
Yes.
there is this famous story about Gandhi that I love so much, that people would um, make huge lines to go and talk to him. And there is this woman that comes with her child, her boy, and tell Gandhi, my son loves to eat sweets so much. Please tell him how much eating sweet is bad for his health.
Uh-huh.
Gandhi replied to her, come back in a month. And then she had to go to the line again. She came back in a month. And then, okay, Gandhi, remember me? I'm here to, with the boy that, he eats too much sweet. Can you tell him, how bad it is for your health? And then Gandhi says, don't eat sweet. It's very bad for your health. And then and that was it. And she was so
Yeah.
surprised,
Yeah.
said, well, why didn't you tell me that a month ago? Why did I have to come back again and do all this to talk to you? Because a month ago I was still eating sweet. Too much.
Oh.
I was still eating
Oh.
too much
Yeah.
sugar. So in order for you to educate,
Yeah.
you have to educate yourselves first. You cannot tell a child, don't
Yeah.
lie, and the child is always catching you lying.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so this is the process. And when you think you are educating the other, if you have this consciousness, you are educating yourself as well, because there will come to you and say, I'm telling him not to eat that much sweets because it's bad, for children to eat that much sweet and sugary candies and etc. But I'm doing that myself. I cannot go without a chocolate bar every day. So, that is why sometimes it's so hard, because we also have to educate and to pass values that we still have not incorporated in ourselves. And so
Beautifully said.
what
Yes.
family means. It means hard work, but a work that is going to bring so much compensation. Getting back again to my son, when he was saying that, and he was telling me, Mom, I love you so much. I feel so good when you embrace me, and I like to embrace you so much. And I never realized that other people
Oh,
didn't have that. That moment, I really reached the stars, and it was amazing. So there is compensation. Uh, with everything, like the hard work that we do, and we are learning the first notes in the piano, and all of a sudden you're playing Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, but it was hard work, it was exercise every day. And the first duty that we have is to put all our energy in the formation of our family. And again, this family may be just another person, or maybe even your cat or dog, or
yeah.
or any other pet that you like, because there is a rapport there. There is something there.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautifully said. So, for me and for all of us, despite changes, generational, cultural, geographical, whatever, right? The family is a very important concept, should not disappear, and we see that within a child being born, tenderness and devotion in the parents naturally awakens. It's very instinctual. But how do we apply that today? And I'm just repeating your words in a way with my words, Jussara. But I think today, for example, it was almost impossible, for example, for me to mimic what I had with my family, which was we had 3 meals seated together, on a table with a tablecloth and a home cooked meal. That reality did not exist for me when my kids were young, but I can have some shared meals after school, for example. We always sit down and let's eat together. Or how can we, and I'm just thinking out loud here, how can we gather together out of respect and love, building those building blocks of learning about discipline and free will with the collective decision making. Or you mentioned, if one of your children is undergoing a breakup, and the world seems to be completely ending, and we know it doesn't. Let's use sensitive, positive language. Let's see uh, what that child in its own spiritual psychological maturity needs at the time. Our role as parents is one to provide that, and learn from them, right? Just how to learn from them, because they're there to educate us as well. So we are coming to an end. Do you have any thoughts for us to close our conversation
There are
today?
two remarks that Joanna de Angelis made in her
Mm,
book, Family Constellation, that I would like to mention before we close.
sure.
One of them is when she talks about freedom, because sometimes we say, or our children will say, "Oh, I feel like I am in a prison," or we give too much liberty and excess and all of that. And she
Yeah.
says that moral limits are like the banks of a river. They do not imprison the waters, they guide them toward the ocean. So this is our role here, is not to imprison and not to, like I said, because we have some expectations to want them to fulfill the expectations we have. And the other one is that she talks about a family as being a constellation of love in which each member orbits around the nucleus of divine fraternity. So we have a role, we have a responsibility. So how do we change the world? We change ourselves, right? So this is what we are doing here. And of course, with all that, we have to emphasize that we are not criticizing what we have today. I know, and for myself as well, that we are doing the best that we can. But are we really? So let's pay attention to that, and understand that with the times changing, of course, some of the structure will change. Like, for instance, before there were no refrigerators, no washing machine.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean that I have to keep my food now out, or will have to wash my hand, my clothes in hand. So we will adapt. We will follow this, the structures, the knowledge that we are gathering from psychology as well, to deal with the emotional issues. But the base is always going to be love and living the real fraternity, understanding that there we have a group of spirits that have asked prior to reincarnation to meet again and to
Yes.
perfect themselves together.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. But we're at the end of our time together. Just want to say thank you. And I think Jussara, through the works and the words of Joanna DeAndrews, brought us the formula for our family of today, right? Love. Love is the central energy to to feed, to nourish, to provide the structure of the family, that we should all have balanced limits, balanced, loving discipline. We should foster real dialogue and coexistence, but also respect each one another and our individualities, because that's what we need, right? We need that. That warm embrace, as your son mentioned to you, when we come home to our children, to our parents, to our spouses. So I think this is a great topic, and I appreciate us focusing several weeks, several episodes on that. We are at the end of our talk today. So, if this is the first time that you're listening to our program, our psychology and spirituality are weekly weekly episodes, and they're all based on the works by Joanna De Angelis. And we hope that this conversation was as enlightening to you as it was for me. I would like to thank you, Jussara, for being with us today, and all of our sponsors, Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, and see you next time.